All right. My name is Jared Anderson. This is my final marine biology project of the year. I did my project on the Portuguese Man of War, and here we go. So, the background on this guy. The Portuguese Man of War, its scientific name is Physalia physalis. Its class is Hydrozoa. It is of the phylum Cnidaria, and it is of the order Siphonophore. It's an invertebrate and it's a carnivore. So, one of the common misconceptions about this creature is that it appears to be a jellyfish, and most people do think it's a jellyfish, but as I said, it's a siphonophore. So, a siphonophore is a colonial marine coelenterate of the order Siphonophora, such as a Portuguese man of war. So basically, it's an animal or a creature made up of a colony of organisms working together. So this thing is broken down into four main parts, and this is why it's called the siphonophore. So the Portuguese man of war has four main types of polyps that kind of make it up. One of the individual polyps is the large gas-filled float, which is called the pneumatophore, that sits kind of on top, and it's gas-filled, so it helps it float. The float can be 15 centimeters above the water, so not doesn't go very far, and it is generally translucent and it's tinged with pink, purple, and blue. So that's kind of what makes it up. The other polyps are the tentacles, which are called gastrozooids, and they um, they can reach up to 165 feet long, but the average is actually only about 30 feet. The tentacles are covered in venom called nematocysts, and they're used to paralyze and kill other fish. So the defensive slash prey capturing tentacles are called dactylozooids, and the reproductive polyps are called the gonozooids. Um, so that fourth polyp is mainly used for like reproduction and making more Portuguese man of war, I guess. Man of wars can typically be found floating on the surface of the ocean in warm tropical and subtropical areas around the world. In the United States, they can occur in coastal waters from Florida, the Atlantic coast, Florida Keys, and the Gulf of Mexico, around to Texas. However, some have been known to drift up the Atlantic coast on warm currents or by storms up into the cooler northeastern United States. It should be noted that some man of wars have been found in the Indo-Pacific, but they are of a different species that is called the Visalia utriculus. Um, they are generally found in groups of 1,000 or more, although they can be seen kind of floating separately. But they have no means of propulsion, but they can also deflate their airbags, like the gas-filled bags, um, to submerge and escape any threat that may be on the surface. The man of war is adapted to live in the open ocean because it just drifts along and it's blown by winds and carried by currents. When new colonies are produced, their floats either lean to the left or right, so that basically ensures that they will drift in different directions and that they will be spread out more evenly over the ocean, so they don't all have this same food source, and it helps them survive. This is also helpful when strong winds blow man of wars into shallow coastal waters, as half will be kind of blown away from shore and they will be likely to survive. But the sea turtles and some fish and also crabs will feed on the man of war if they catch it. As the colony drifts, the man of war is constantly kind of fishing for food with its tentacles. Um, it's actually pretty incredible the way that it uh, attempts to catch fish because it uses its tentacles to paralyze or kind of make the fish freeze um, with the dactylozoids. And with the aid of specialized stinging uh, capsules called nematocysts that cover much of the surface area, um, the nematocysts are tightly packed and they're tiny coiled stinging barbs that shoot out whenever the cells are disturbed. This is kind of either by something brushing up against the man of war or like the water changes. So the potential food items, such as small fish, crustaceans, plankton, are paralyzed by these stinging cells, which contain a powerful neurotoxin. Once the food is paralyzed, the feeding tentacles, the gastrozoids, attach and draw the prey up into the mouth of it. An interesting kind of factoid about the man of war, um, the blue dragon sea slug actually kind of steals the toxins from the man of war, and it absorbs it into its own skin, so it deters other predators from trying to eat it or anything like that. Um, so one of the interesting things about the man of war is how they reproduce. Not much is known about how they reproduce, just because if you think about like it being a siphonophore, and it's made up of 4 different kind of polyps, how does it determine its gender? Well, the as discussed earlier, the the fourth polyp that I talked about, called the gonozoids, have either kind of the sperm or they have the eggs, right? And they can be fertilized um, by each other, but it's not a creature that is can be either male or female. It's either a male or it's a female. Like it's just one. Um, so they generally reproduce through a method called broadcast spawning. So this is kind of where the the males release their sperm into the water, and the females release their eggs into the water column all at the same time. So this pretty much increases the likelihood of fertilization, and scientists believe that man of wars spawn together in large numbers, as discussed, with there usually being at least 1,000 together in a colony. And when they release the gametes into the water, the larvae then each go through asexual budding and they produce a new man of war colony. But it's hard to imagine how the 4 different polyps all come together to create one specific kind of creature or organism. Well, one of the kind of weird and interesting facts about the Portuguese man of war is that there's a fish that likes to hang out under its float, so under the gas-filled kind of balloon-looking thing. Uh, and the reason why it does this is because there are fewer stingers there. So the Portuguese man of war fish just kind of hangs out in there, and it nibbles on the tentacles of the man of war, and the kind of things that it is trying to eat and brings up into its digestive uh, organs, I guess. So that's just kind of an interesting tidbit. But the man of war, in terms of its relations with humans, it doesn't actively go out and attack humans because it's commonly just way out in open ocean water, far from humans, and they are rarely ran into. But when they are blown into shore and on shallow coastal areas, uh, they will sometimes, because their tentacles can reach up to 165 feet long, they can sting you. They sting humans with their nematocysts, and even when they are dead or sitting on the beach, just looks all dried out, the tentacles can still sting and are highly venomous. So they shouldn't be touched by humans at all. If a human is stung, that they should kind of remove the tentacles with a glove or anything, but they shouldn't add alcohol if because if you do, then the undisturbed nematocysts discharge. Um, but the Portuguese Man of War uh, is not valuable at all commercially. It's fairly, and again, it's common throughout the tropics, but it doesn't do anything, like doesn't help commercially at all, and it's just kind of there. It's not a jellyfish, just a siphonophore, just kind of floating through the ocean. And I guess that's my project. There we go.